My name is Celia Loomis. I am the Digital Media Coordinator here at ACTE, and I want to welcome you guys all to the U.S. Army 21st Century Military Career Pathways. Our presenter is Tony Castillo. He is Chief of Education Division for the U.S. Army Recruiting Command. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you, Tony, and you can get started.
Thank you, Celia. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be with you today and to continue this ongoing great relationship the U.S. Army has with ACTE. To give you a little background about myself, I'm actually a retired soldier. I'm the Chief of Education for USAREC, and I do this is my second career. But it's not just a career. I'm actually a product of the Army's continuing education system. So some of the things I'm going to bring up to you, discuss today, I've actually lived through this. I've actually gone through this. My achievements academically and where I am today, I really owe to the background I have in the Army and the opportunities the Army has provided me. So really what I want to do here is I'd like to have really a conversation with you today about what the Army is doing in regards to 21st century and what we're doing with military career pathways and how the Army is, it's not just go to combat service. There's so many other things. But first of all, who do we have? I'd like to know who do we have on here today? Do we have classroom teachers, administrators? I'd like to know who's out there and where are you from?
Well, I can start. So I am Mary Olson. I work in the Career Center as a career counselor at a post-secondary college.
Great to have some post-secondary folks here as well. Anyone else?
This is Kate Cole. I'm the Business and Industry Coordinator with NOCTI Business Solutions.
Okay. Great. Thank you for participating. Anybody out there from Texas? That's my great home state out there. Spent a lot of time in Texas. Guess not. All right. Well, we'll move on here. As if I can, Celia, thank you. If you could pass over the controls for the slides, please.
Yep, no problem. They're all yours, Tony.
Okay. It's not working for me. Okay, here we go. Well, what I'd like to start with a question. What do you think about, what do you think happens when somebody tells a recruiter, hey, I'd like to join the Army? What's the process? What would happen? Does anybody have any comments on this?
I usually put them in contact with our recruiter that comes to the office here.
Okay.
Hi. I personally have gone into a recruitment office in the past. Shortly after I graduated from high school, I was sent in just to kind of get more information as I took the ASVAB as part of my high school curriculum. And basically, I just got sold a whole bunch of spiel regarding the Army. I don't really remember now because this is so many years later. But now whenever I hear the word recruiter and Army, I think it's exactly that. They're there to recruit you for the Army.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you're absolutely right. I mean, even when I was back in the recruiting days, I spent some time in recruiting. And you're right, we were out there, in essence, kind of selling the Army. But things have actually changed a great deal since then. Times have changed. Any other comments from anybody else out there on what you think happens when you let a recruiter know that you're interested in joining? Okay, well, what we'll do is, let me show you what I'd like to do is, as we move forward, is show you this is a snapshot of the process. And this is an overview of what happens. But the main thing now that happens and that people don't realize is that recruiters, they really tell their Army story. They're recruiting for folks who are qualified. You have to be qualified to enlist in the Army. Mentally, morally, physically qualified. We do have those requirements. And along with that, with those two steps there, comes along, recruiters really, you may be surprised to know how many relationships are actually built. It's a relationship. The recruiters discuss not just, hey, the Army is great and who are they. They talk to the prospect and they let them know, they ask questions like, what are you interested in doing in your future? And they ask the open-ended questions and say, what types of careers are you interested in? What is your goal? If you want to, when I spoke to kids, I always tell them, if you want to succeed in life, whatever that means for you, you have to have a plan. Things just don't happen. So recruiters really try to develop a plan and help an applicant achieve whatever that end goal is, just finding a way to do it through the Army. The Army has so many careers, over 200 careers, and we're all familiar with the national career clusters. Well, they put military into one career cluster, but the reality is that we have career fields that fit in all of those 16 career clusters. So they speak to them to that. And as the young lady stated a little while ago, she took the ASVAB, now we have the ASVAB that's the Career Exploration Program. So when a prospect comes in, they may have taken the ASVAB at school. They may have gone to the ASVABprogram.com website and explored some careers that they're interested in. And as you know now in secondary education in particular, across the country, they're showing students how to explore these careers and look at the career clusters. So they may be ready to discuss specific careers. If not, the recruiters lead them to that and try to help them identify that. Of course, after they do that, they contract, and that means they enlist in the Army. But once they do that, while they're waiting to go to leave for basic training and their career training, there's other training that happens, and the recruiters stay with them and try to get them as prepared as possible for what's coming next, which is basic training, career training. Assess, that means is when they actually leave and they actually become a soldier. So I wanted you to understand that, that the process, and the key point here is that the recruiters really develop a relationship and try to identify what it is that a prospect wants. And we just try to find a way, or they try to find a way through the Army to achieve that goal. And when you look at those goals, here's two paths to be a leader in the Army. And these are the general two paths for anyone that's interested in the Army. On the left side here, you see the enlisted pathway. On the right side, you see the officer pathway. And recruiters are there to help, whichever way an applicant may want to pursue a career in the Army. And it's not to say that one is better than the other. You have here, if you notice, and I'll kind of what I'll do is I'll equate this to a career field in the education world, if you will. If you look at the right side, the officer side, you could think of that as at the stars level there, which are the generals in the Army. I kind of equate that to a state education level, maybe a commissioner of education at a state and state level leadership. When you look at the full bird colonel there, that's sort of probably a superintendent. As you go down, maybe the oak leaves here, that's probably like maybe an assistant superintendent or other people at a district level. You look at a principal, probably about a captain, which is the two bars here, and so forth. Now on the enlisted side, from the rank here of what we call a sergeant, the three stripes here, that's probably, I think of that from there up, those are probably the teachers, the counselors and whatnot, and you pursue and you progress in your career. Of course, the Army is looking for, intelligent, motivated, innovative, adaptive soldiers now. The world has changed, the Army has changed, and we need those types of soldiers in our Army. So that's kind of the structure and the pathway that you have. Now, and I'd like to point out, just because you chose the enlisted side doesn't mean you do not have an opportunity to come to the officer side. There's various programs within the Army that you can actually go from the enlisted side and switch over to the officer side. And just to mention, we have a Green to Gold program that enlisted soldiers can use to go to ROTC, and they enroll in an ROTC program at a college, and they go to the officer side. Actually, today, in the past years, we've had a lot of enlisted soldiers, service members that have come back from deployments and whatnot, and they've actually chosen to stay and have switched over to the officer side. As a matter of fact, our commanding general's executive officer, he was actually enlisted before he became an officer. So a classic example of how you can switch over to the officer side. So just because you came in enlisted doesn't mean that you've lost your opportunity to come over to the officer side if you'd like to. And some people, to tell you, some people just don't want to. They want to stay in the enlisted side because from this rank here, you are the senior enlisted advisors to the officers. So you can match them from the right to the left. You work jointly and you work together. You're both leaders within the structure of the Army. And I'll give you a personal experience. My wife was actually in the Army as well, and she had an opportunity to switch over to the officer side. Actually, her commander, a colonel, actually called and asked her to apply for a program. And she actually turned it down and decided not to because she wanted to stay on the enlisted side and wanted to lead soldiers from that side. And that was just a personal choice. And the key here is that you have choices within the Army. Just because you came in one path doesn't mean you cannot switch to another pathway. So like I said, I just wanted to give you an overview of how that occurs within the Army structure. Now, once you're a soldier, how do you think soldiers track their careers within the Army? I mean, just as civilians, I mean, we have careers. You that are out there in this call today, you have careers. Do you have a method to track your careers? How do you think soldiers track their careers?
Don't know.
Well, it leads me to what we're talking about and what the Army is leading to. The Army has a program called the Army Career Tracker, and it's only been around for a few years. It's continuing to grow. And what the Army was developed, because we had so many programs within the Army, it was really incumbent upon the leaders and other people to inform soldiers and officers, this is what you need to do to progress. Well, they developed this automated system called Army Career Tracker. As you can see here on the screen, we have, these are the home pages, the front page of, for the officer side. If you look at the left side, if you look here at the top, you have a full bird colonel there. The enlisted side, and it's actually developed also for civil servants, just as myself. So the Army developed this program to assist soldiers and Army civilians to track their careers. And this is how we're moving forward to assist anybody in the Army to be as successful as they want to be and be able to take advantage of the various programs that the Army has. You can see here, here's how Army Career Tracker works. It is a one-stop shop for everything. You track all your training. If you look at the top of the slide here, you have all your institutional training that you take within the Army. You look in the middle slide, we talk about all the experiential learning, which is all your duty positions, the experience that you're gaining within the Army, including deployments, because all of that creates what we call the total soldier concept, or the total civilian. Just like in the civilian world, as you move on from maybe being a teacher, you become a counselor, you become a reading specialist, you attain different certifications. Those are all things that are building on your worth for your career field and your experience and how you can move forward and go up to whatever level you may want to attain, whether you want to go into administration, become a principal, move on to post-secondary education. And this is so you can track all of this in one system. And then you have your education, and you're able to place in the system and you track personal goals that you may have, whether they be civilian education, whether they be career-wise, a rank that you want to attain by a certain point, career courses that you may want to take. If you see in the middle here, the key to it is you search. You search to see what programs are out there, what programs do we have, what type of certifications. you see not just yourself, but a key to the career tracker is that you see your peers. Within the Army, just as in the civilian world, we're competing. We're competing for those. If you want to be an administrator, you want to be a principal, assistant principal, counselor, there's positions that you're competing with. You're competing against your peers. Well, in the Army, it's the same way. You're competing against your peers. In Army Career Tracker, you can see snapshots of what education level, what's the percentage of enlisted soldiers with a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, officers, what percentage have done X number of deployments. So you can see what your counterparts are doing so you can set your goals and, again, continue to try to strive to be as successful as you want to be. So, and that's where the understand piece comes in. You look at all those programs, you look at those things where you're supposed to, where you should be at to be successful, and it helps you understand, what do I need to do next? And when you figure that out, what you need to do next, then you act. And this is a one system, one-stop shop that allows you to do those things. So if you look at the bottom, you become a leader. Also, I failed to mention here, the mentor. You can request for someone to be a mentor. You can ask one of your leaders to be a mentor. You can ask anybody. You send a request out. You ask them to be a mentor so they can help you to look at your career and take a snapshot of where you're at, look how you're at, how you grade against your peers, and maybe they can suggest some things that you can do that will help you attain those things that you want to achieve within your career in the Army. So again, this is all for enlisted, for officer, for civilians. And it's a beautiful system. It's been in place for about 3 years. It's continuing to grow, and it's helping all be as successful as they want to be within the Army. Now what I'd like to do is I want to show you a few screenshots of the home page to kind of illustrate what we were just talking about. And this is a home page for an officer, as you can see here. And this is, if you can see here in the middle, you see promotion board results. So it's telling you what percentage were promoted. The level of civilian education. If you notice here, you have your peers with PhDs. There's 15%. And that's how you can check against your peers. You look here at key developmental assignments. As a leader in the Army, as an officer, there's key milestones that you want to achieve. Just as, us as educators in the civilian world, there's key milestones you want to achieve to, whether you want to be in administration or whatnot. You may want to get a master's degree if you don't. If you want to be a superintendent, you need to get that certification. So this is telling you what are different assignments, what different education levels or courses that you need to attain. Now there's other things here, obviously. That's just a snapshot there of this officer's page. But if I move you here to the left side margin, you see who your leader is, who grades you, your rater. That's basically your first-line supervisor that provides you a report card, how you're doing. But then this person actually selected a mentor. And he has a mentor there that's giving them advice. They can actually see this, and the mentor can provide advice on what you should do next. So this is how the Army is moving forward to help their soldiers throughout their career. And, like I said, Army civilians as well. Next slide here is a page for the enlisted side. And it's very similar. If you see here in the dashboard, which is what they call the middle here, on the far left-hand side, these are specific military schools that if you want to be successful and you want to be promoted in the Army, you're going to be moving through these courses. So it's giving you a snapshot of where you've been. For instance, this is a private in the Army, a PFC. They've only been to their first career job, so they're not in any leadership positions yet. You can see over here in the middle, civilian education status. Well, right now they have no civilian education status. As they move on through their career, they'll have opportunities to attain civilian education. They can set goals, as I indicated, of what they want to achieve. Again, here on the far left-hand margin, you have, if you notice here, this is a good example of somebody that's asked for a mentor. So there was a message sent to the staff sergeant here requesting for them to be a mentor, and they have to agree to be a mentor, and then they'll have access to look at this screen and be able to provide counseling and recommendations of what this soldier can do as they move on through their career in the Army. The next slide shows a civilian homepage. The same type of idea here. What you see here, IDP goals are individual development plans. As civilians in the Army, you developed these plans, maybe courses that you want to go to. Do you want to learn about contracts in the Army? Sometimes you may be managing a contract for the Army, so you may have to go to the contract course. Right here, there's a project management course. So there's different ways that you can, different programs, different things you can do to be promoted within the civilian world in the Army as well, or maybe give you opportunities to apply for different positions in the federal government. Yes? I'm sorry, I thought someone was saying something. Okay. Here you can see the same thing for my leaders here. You can see that they actually have a mentor. I have one, I work in the education field. I have a mentor that's at Headquarters Army in the education department. And she counsels me and has helped me to think about different courses and different programs that I can do if I want to continue to move on in my career within education in the Army. And then it shows over here civilian education and certifications. So it's basically the same structure as a soldier, but as you can see, it's a snapshot way that you can track your career. I mean, in the civilian world, do any of you have any systems like this in the careers that you're within, in your career fields?
Not that I know of, or not this detailed anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can see how the Army has developed this program to assist us to develop our careers. I think this would be wonderful in the civilian world, even in the education world or anything out there, to help you, here are some goals. Here's how I can set my goals. And that's how the Army's changing as we move forward, how it's actually not changing, changed already. Now, what do you think about when you think of a career in the Army? What comes to mind?
It's a functioning body, so it needs everything that you would in civilian and then some.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Anybody else? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about career and Army?
Probably something more on the front lines as a soldier.
On the front lines of the soldier, would it be like maybe like combat, if you will? We've been in war. I mean, we've had a lot of deployments. I would say that most people would think career in the Army and they think combat. And what I'd like to tell you is that the reality is that, and most people don't realize this, we have over 200 careers in the Army, and only about 10 to 20% are actually combat related. All the other careers in the Army are basically in some type of support role, and most people don't realize that. And what we're going to go into here is I'd like to talk to you about the Army career, the Career Navigator. This is a new thing. It actually just came out, I'd say maybe within a month. And this is a way now that recruiters, just as we talked about how they talk to applicants that are interested in the Army, educators that may want to inform their students or do some research, or parents. This is an app that's out there now on iPad. You can get it on your iPhone and on the Androids. But what it is, it's a way that you can navigate your career, and this is how we're moving forward with careers in the Army. So as you can see in this home screen here, this is where you place your filters. On the far left-hand side, are you a male? On the right, are you a female? Are you interested in reserves, active duty? Are you a high school graduate? Are you a college graduate? Then it's asking, are you interested? Remember I discussed in the beginning, you have two types of career field paths that you can take. You can take the enlisted side or the officer side. And you choose, which way do you want to explore careers within the Army? As I said, this app is actively out there right now. I encourage educators to download this app because it'll help you inform students about the various careers in the Army and help them do research. Now here in this example, this person's interested in the enlisted side. They've chosen a job here that they want to explore. In the Army, we'd call this 94 Foxtrot for F. But if you see the title here, it's a computer detection systems repair. Now, in what way do you think Army careers transfer to civilian career fields? How do you think they transfer?
Well, I think that you can definitely find some, a lot of transferable skills. It's just a matter of when I've helped students here at the college in writing their resumes, they write, their technical information from the Army, and it takes a while to understand what that is, to write that in civilian terms, that the skill that they're really trying to get across to the employer.
Right, absolutely. I'll tell you, I value what you're doing, and it's a difficult task. A lot of times it's difficult to identify clearly what specific career in the Army you've done to the civilian world. Well, this app will actually help, along with another resource that I'm going to mention in a few minutes. But this app can help you with that. And you're absolutely right. Most Army career fields. Does anybody else want to comment on that? How they transfer?
I think for certain positions in certain fields that prior military services looked as a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And a lot of times we think about the career fields, and sometimes we forget about the intangible items that the Army provides. The leadership. Remember in that first slide, it's two paths to leadership, because we're all taught to be leaders. Whether you're an enlisted or an officer, you're taught to lead. And the one thing that makes our Army better than any other Army across this world is that every soldier in the Army, from the private to the most experienced, is taught that the mission, they teach you no fail, and that somebody is always there to pick up that banner and complete the mission. So if a leader is not there, maybe a private will take charge and accomplish that mission. Mission accomplishment. And that's the one thing of many actually, but that's the one thing that really set us apart from other armies across this world, is that from the lowest private, they all know what the mission is, and everybody is prepared to stand up and take charge and continue the mission. In relation to career fields, the thing about the Army and career fields is that it's not going to be always a one-to-one. In the medical fields, it's very easy. You're a nurse, or you're a nurse in the Army, and even in the Army and nursing, to use that as an experience, we have on the officer side, you may have what we call in the civilian world an RN, registered nurses. On the enlisted side, you may have emergency techs. You may have LVN, what they call in the civilian world LVNs, because you have medics, combat medics. So they don't equate exactly to what's in the civilian world. For instance, in this app, as you can see on the screen that I just popped up, what I'd like you to notice is here, the screen you see, it's the job duties, and this may help that individual I was talking about, helping equate military careers to the civilian world when they're writing resumes. You look at future civilian careers, helpful skills, job duties. It describes everything that you need to know about this job for enlisted, active duty, reserves. But then I'd like you to take a look at the bottom piece of this screen, and you notice these career fields: administrative support, combat, computer technology, legal law, and what is that? Enforcement. Aren't those? Can anybody tell me what those are similar to? Something I mentioned earlier at the beginning of our webinar here. Anybody think what is that very similar to?
The career clusters?
Absolutely. Career clusters. Absolutely. Thank you. And what we'd like to do in the future, we're going to try to work with this Career Navigator. In the future, we want to try to see if we can crosswalk our Army careers right into career clusters and maybe enhance this app a little bit better. So that way, it'll be in terms that a student out in the school, a teacher out in the schools, when they're learning about career clusters and career advancements, they could easily do the crosswalk to what we have in the Army today. But this is a tremendous tool that's just been provided to us. But speaking of careers and transferring to the civilian world, for instance, this 94 Foxtrot, and I'm on here, and another resource that's out there that you may or may not be aware of is ONET Online. ONET Online actually has a crosswalk where you can enter an Army, what we call an MOS, which is a military occupational specialty, and you can enter it, and then it'll provide you a list of civilian jobs that crosswalk into that Army career, into that career path. And I entered here while I was doing this. I entered 94 Foxtrot in the crosswalk, military crosswalk on ONET Online, and there's 7 careers that showed up. To give you an example, electronic engineering technician, computer operator, electrical and electronics repair, commercial industrial equipment. So there's a tool out there that can help you, especially that individual is talking about writing resumes and transferring. These are careers that transfer, a military career that could transfer directly into these civilian careers. And I'll mention some resources at the end because there's another resource called Army Cool that speaks to all the certifications that you may need for these different careers that the Army has available. Moving on with the Career Navigator, as you can see here, the Career Navigator also provides you a timeline. And if you notice here in the middle, there's a timeline here. A private E2 that comes in the Army says in about a half a year, you're a private E2, earning approximately about $20,000 a year. After 1 year, you become a private first class. And it tells you where you're at. And this career line continues on. Just as I showed you in that first slide about the different career paths, if you look at it from the enlisted or the officer side, it'll show you a timeline or where you should be at and what promotions and what's your income level at those levels and what other things are available, whether it be assignments or different programs that you should be looking at. So this is how we're moving forward in the 21st century with Army Career Paths. And this is how it's showing you that you can track your career with Army Career Tracker to be, again, as successful as you want to be, regardless if you're enlisted, officer, or a civilian in the Army. I'd like to show you here some resources that we have available to you to research these careers. Again, this Career Navigator app is available on iPad, iPhone, Android. I'll tell you about the Go Army Ed, our virtual gateway to Army education that'll help soldiers pursue their civilian education to attain that bachelor's, master's, whatever the case may be. I'd also like to point you out to our GoArmy.com website, which is all Army, and then our Army Cool. This is the website I was mentioning about tying into certifications. You can enter any type of Army career here, and it'll show you what certifications you should be working towards. In most instances, the Army, while you're still in the Army will pay for some of those certification examinations to get you nationally certified for those particular career fields. And again, a great resource that I've used a great deal is ONET Online to do that crosswalk. Now, what I'd like to tell you now, and I'll move you, kind of want to go back and talk about the relationships and how Army recruiters develop relationships with applicants. And before we end here, I had that experience. I'll tell you, just 2 weeks ago, I had a phone call. I was sitting in my office, and I had a phone call from a young man by the name of George Cortez. And unbelievable. George Cortez was one of the first people I ever enlisted in the Army when I was in recruiting. He was at Irvin High School in El Paso, Texas. And this young man, I met him doing a classroom presentation, kind kind of goofball and, good kid. And he took the ASVAB, didn't score very high. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do. He had no direction in his life, really. Wasn't sure where he was going to do next. And I told him, I said, George, when you're ready, come talk to me, and I can show you in the Army how you could be successful. Like I said, he didn't score very well in the ASVAB. He goes, we do all his processing. He was fully qualified. He goes to the military entrance processing station. I actually call up there to see how he's doing because I couldn't be there with him that day when he was looking at the jobs. And this is something that I'd like to really mention. In the Army, you actually select your career. You select your career in the Army. No one tells you this is what you're going to do. Based on your test scores, based on what's available in the Army, you choose your career. And because George didn't score too well around that time, I had kind of spoken to him. I said, look, you're probably going to look at maybe something in combat arms, maybe field artillery or something like that. It's not too bad. It's technical. But there's other opportunities that you can do in the Army. And I told him about the college opportunities, how you could take classes, and I told him how you could switch over to the officer side and do green to gold and all of those things. Well, George is enlisting at the military process. I call up there. The guidance counselor tells me, Tony, you need to talk to this guy because this job just came up, topographical specialist, and he's telling me he wants field artillery. I'm like, what? I said, put George on the phone. I tell George, if you never, ever believed anything I've ever told you, believe me right now. Take this job, and we'll talk about it later. Well, George took that job, topographic specialist in the Army. He said he called me 2 weeks ago. George Cortez now is Captain George Cortez. And it was amazing how that happened just 2 weeks ago, knowing that I was going to do this. He came back and told me every single word that I have told him, everything I just told you about the education opportunities, everything. He used all my words, and he tells me now, Tony, I always tell everybody about my recruiter, and I tell my soldiers now about planning to be successful and how they'd have to take advantage of the education centers and the education that's in the Army. The opportunities are there, but you have to have the self-discipline to take advantage of those opportunities. And it was amazing that George called me, and he just turned all those words back to me, and now he's mentoring young soldiers in his company that he's in charge of because he's a company commander, and telling them about those opportunities and helping them. And that's what the Army does, and that's how we help with careers and how you can manage your career within the Army. Anyway, with that said, I wanted to mention that to you. I'd like to leave it open now for any questions that you may have to try to answer any questions you may have on anything I've covered or anything else within the Army that I may be able to answer for you.
A few years, this is Mary Olson, and a few years back I was able to attend an educator's workshop with the Marines, went to San Diego, and got to walk through from recruitment to graduation with the process. And that was very insightful to be able to talk to those recruits and understand why they joined and their knowledge of what is expected and how many of them are going to utilize the education. That was, to me, the best information that I was able to receive and pass on to others. Does the Army offer anything like that?
Absolutely. The Army has the most robust education system of all services, and I'll tell you, and it equates because the Army is the largest of all services. We all have education programs, and they're all good, but the Army's education program is so robust, it's amazing. The opportunities to switch over to the officer side are, there's at least 3 or 4 types that you can use, different ways. The opportunities to attain, I'll tell you, I obtained my bachelor's degree on active duty. My wife one-upped me and attained her master's degree on active duty. And my wife actually was able, because on active duty they pay tuition assistance up to $4,800 a year. And my wife was able to use tuition assistance to get up to her master's. And now, with the post-9/11 Montgomery GI Bill, she's actually transferred that to our daughter. So our daughter has a 4-year degree paid for by the Army waiting for her. Our daughter's 12 years old. And that's to give you an example of the opportunities and the programs that are available.
This one is highlighted.
So anybody else have any questions or anything that I could answer? I mean, on anything. And I encourage everyone out there to speak to your recruiters and ask them about the educator tours, because those are great programs to take you on a military installation, an Army installation, and be immersed in the Army and really find out and learn about us and get to know the opportunities firsthand of what's available in the Army. Any other questions out there? Well, I'll tell you, we still have a few minutes. We have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, it looks like. I have a couple screenshots. This app, this Career Navigator app, that's a great resource. I will tell you, like, I'm using it on my phone right now, and I just wanted to know, I didn't know off the top of my head, how many enlisted careers, because I was talking about 10 to 20% careers are actually combat related, and I was curious how many careers there are. When I did the filter on my phone app, it came up with 35 careers that are combat enlisted side, 35, as opposed to in engineering in the Army, and you can actually do this on the app. I'm doing it live right now. There's 35 career fields in engineering in the Army. So it's a great tool. I will tell you, there's two more. Here's a couple screenshots of the app on the iPhone. This is what I actually use to identify those career field numbers right now for you. I encourage you to download this app and encourage any of your students. This could be used even in a career class. And it shows you there, the second screen there, it shows you the different career areas that are found within the Army. There's many more. And when you click on the right-hand screen, when you click on any one of those, it'll give you information about that career field. I will tell you the iPad version is more powerful than the phone version, but they're both just as good.
Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate everything that you said and you coming out to be our presenter today. And with that, if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to put one last one out right now, or we have a chat box below. If you'd like to type it in there, you're more than welcome to. If anyone was not able to make it today, just put out a reminder that all of our web seminars will be online at www.acteonline.org/ACTLive. So please, if anyone would like to get more information or watch this again, it should be up within the next few days. We'll be able to have all the resources and the recording available for you up on ACT Live.
Hey, Celia, thank you. And I'd like to tell everybody, hey, just one last thing, and I'll leave you with this. The Army is interested in ensuring that all students are qualified for life. That's what we're interested in. And we value being partners in education. We need all our students, all our kids to graduate from high school. And then just, pursue whatever career, whatever goals that it is. But the first thing to be successful that you have to attain is that high school diploma. And we value being partners in education with our educators. And our goal is to help all students graduate from high school regardless of intent to enlist or not. We need them to be qualified for life so they can continue to strengthen our country. I thank you for your time. And again, I really appreciate the partnership that the Army has with ACTE. Thank you, Celia, and thank you, everybody, for coming on board for this webinar today.
Thank you, Tony. Have a great day. Tony, if you could do one last thing for me before you head out.
Yes.
Right next to your little box, can you right-click that? And I think there should be a little button that makes me... I think I accidentally made you the host when I was transferring the PowerPoint.
Right-click where?
Next to my name, if you right-click.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me find you. Okay. Change role to host.
Yes, thank you. That would be amazing. Thank you. Thank you again, Tony. That's perfect. And again, I will be in contact with you soon, but thank you again. You did an absolutely amazing job.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Of Of course. Have a great day.
All righty. Bye-bye.